You know, the amount of propaganda that is spewed to our citizens and the ease with which people slurp it up. I love how this guy said we were talking about minimum wage, of course. Um, People are leaving because senile Joe's no mandates mandate. Like that has anything to do with it. Anything to deflect it from the reality of what's happening. He said, as for wages, the problem is everybody wants to be paid Mercedes wages and pay Yugo prices. So, I checked. What's a Mercedes wage? I don't actually know. Well, a base model Mercedes is $34,000. How much do you got to make to afford a $34,000 car? You got to make at least 60 grand, and that's if you live like you're making 30 grand. If you're making 60 grand and living like 60 grand, you ain't getting a $35,000 car. Well, you could, but you'd be putting yourself in pretty hefty debt. So 60 grand, call that the basement. That's $30 an hour. And that's for a base model cheap Mercedes. For your typical decent Mercedes, you need to be making $80,000 or $90,000, and that puts you in the top 20%. We're talking about the bottom 50%. So take your Mercedes wages and shove them clean up your ass, JTK. You can't have both. Wages are an expense, and when a business owner takes on a risk, it is only right they get rewarded. First of all, they're not taking a risk. Their employees are taking a risk, but they're not taking a risk. At least most of them aren't. A small mom and pop shop, those people are taking a risk. Most of them, however, are not. They're looking to expand their money supply. Um, but that's beside the point. They're not the one taking the bulk of the risk. They're not the ones who, go into poverty and become homeless if your business fails. You'll move on to the next business venture. Your employees you let go become homeless and go into poverty if they can't find another job. Since Democrats decided to decimate the small independently owned business by paying $600 a week, wait a minute. He misspelled Republicans. How the hell did he misspell Republicans? So let me correct that. Since Republicans decided to decimate small independently owned businesses by paying $600 a week, because the Republicans are the ones who did that. And that ended July of 2020. That ended 5 months, 6 months before Trump left office. And then the Republicans voted to extend it at $300 a month, which ended this past July. Oh, but wait. The 25 Republican states all canceled the $300 boost early. Most of them in like the April, May timeframe. So for the last what's that um May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Okay. So for the last 7 months, no one's gotten a boost in those Republican states. At least most of them. Some fought in court and won. And guess what happened to the unemployment and employment numbers in those states where the boost was canceled? Nothing. Nothing happened. It's almost as if this has nothing to do with the employment boost. So all this rhetoric this guy is spewing is literally propaganda that has absolutely no valid meaning in reality whatsoever, except to get people as stupid as him to say things as stupid as this in public forums to try to brainwash the population. So the one thing he did say that was legitimate, you can't have both. Wages are an expense. That's a legitimate thing to say, especially for a person who's completely ignorant of reality. So let's look at that. Let's check that out. 1980. I love using 1980 because it's an easy year to look up. Previous to that, it gets really hard to look up. Things changed a lot. And actually, 1980 is bad for me because we just got done the oil crisis in the late 70s. And we were undergoing pretty heavy inflation in the late 70s, early 80s. So it's actually a bad year for what I'm trying to say here. But I choose it because the 80s is when Ronald Reagan was in office, and he summarily destroyed multiple generations in favor of the 1%. But let's decide that point. Now, I'm a Republican. I'm quickly becoming something else. I was born and raised Republican. I'm quickly becoming something else. So let's talk about that. There's inflation, right? Costs go up. So in 1980, McDonald's was paying an entry wage of about $5 an hour. Now, what was the cost of something at McDonald's? Like a Big Mac meal, $2.48. Okay? So a Big Mac meal was $2.48, and that was a large drink, large fry. What does a Big Mac meal cost today? Actually, did I do that wrong? I might have done that wrong. I don't know if I did that right or wrong. You might have to check my numbers. They don't make that big of a difference. But so what's that same meal cost today? Well, the same meal today is $10. I'm like, whoa, wait, Chris. Big Mac meal's $8.19. No, it's not. A medium Big Mac meal is $8.19. To get the same meal you got in 1980, you got to upsize to a large. So you're paying $10. Actually, a little over that. But it's roughly $10. Okay. So what is $2.48 adjusted for inflation? It's $8.32. So what they're charging for a medium is about the inflation adjusted price for a large Big Mac meal. So they're charging today inflation, and I'm using pre-pandemic prices because a lot of what we're seeing now is not a result of normal inflation. A lot of what we're seeing right now is a part of the Great Resignation and a part of the post-pandemic response by a lot of these companies. Okay, so we're using stabilized numbers. So think, late 2019, early 2020. So because I think it's over $10 now, at least at my local McDonald's. It's pretty expensive. So adjusted for inflation, it's $8.32. So not only has McDonald's increased their prices by 235.7%, which is the rate of inflation, 235%. That's right. Inflation is 235% over the last 40 years. Not only have they raised their prices to match inflation, but they've actually added 24% onto it on top of that because it's $10, not $8.32. If they'd only matched inflation, it'd be $8.32. What about their wages? If all their costs went up at the rate of inflation and they fully adjusted their prices at the rate of inflation, that means they would have adjusted the wages at the rate of inflation, right? Now keep in mind, this would not result in higher wages. This would result in your wages being exactly the same as they were in 1980. Because remember, just like when you go to a different country and you got to change over your money, or when you change years in the US, you got to change over your money to adjust for inflation. So if McDonald's had not raised the wages they paid entry-level workers by even 1 penny, if they'd kept the wage exactly the same as it was in 1980, what would wages be today? $16.78. What is actual wages today? Entry-level wages pre-pandemic for McDonald's was $9 an hour. There are some states that were already above $9 an hour for minimum wage already. So let's use $10 an hour. So what is McDonald's actually paying today? $2.98. So if you started at McDonald's in 1980, you were making $5 an hour. If you were still working that same type of job at McDonald's, so if your kid's kid was working McDonald's today, he'd be making less than you did in 1980. He'd be making less than minimum wage in 1980. Because $10 an hour adjusted back to 1980 is $2.98. Minimum wage was $3.10. So for McDonald's to keep their labor costs identical to 1980, their entry wage would be $16.78. So where did all that money go from? They're not paying that. They never paid anything close to that. Yet they're increasing their prices to match inflation, as is everybody else. So where's all the money going? Into their fucking pockets. Why do you think 90% of stocks is owned by the top 10%? That's where all the money is. It's all in the stock market. But employees have costs and take all the risks. Yet McDonald's is paying less today than they were in 1980. But you can't buy the burger for what it cost in 1980. They're actually paying $2.12. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, because they were paying $5 an hour. So McDonald's is actually paying $2.02 less per hour today, pre-pandemic, than they were in 1980. So not only have they increased their prices at 125% the rate of inflation, it might match the rate of inflation, like some of their other stuff might be at 90% the rate of inflation, when they compensate for it by making. I didn't price out everything on the menu and adjust it for inflation. I just took. Everybody uses the Big Mac meal as a metric, so I used that. Okay, so not only have they increased their prices at better than the rate of inflation, they've lowered their labor rates. They're paying people less. They're paying people over 20% less. Even at $15 an hour, they're still saving $1.78 an hour over the rate of inflation. You don't have to believe me. It's right here in the inflation calculator. $5 an hour in 1980 is $16.78 today. So even at $15 an hour, they're still making billions of dollars more. And that's not good enough for them. Oh my God. But people want Mercedes wages and Yugo prices. No! We want you to just fucking match the rate of inflation to start with. How about that? Just match inflation. I mean, you're already adjusting your prices for inflation. It'll literally cost you nothing. Oh my God. Oh. What can you say? I spent an hour researching all of this and typing it off with the guy, and he's just going to ignore it and reject it all and continue spewing that same rhetoric the next time he talks to another person about the same thing, even though every single word he uttered is completely and totally debunked in such a way that you can't argue against it. You have no negotiating position. You have no pedestal to stand on. Your information is so completely wrong. It's blatantly, facially, and obviously wrong. But he'll continue spewing that same information to the next person he talks to. Why would you help the executioner put the noose around your neck? And then when someone stands up and says, that's not right, you shouldn't be getting executed, you, the one who helped them put the noose around your neck, say, shut up, this is fair. This is what it should be. Because nobody thinks they have a noose around their neck. Everybody thinks they're special. I talked to a guy. He argued that $15 an hour was a livable wage in Houston, Texas. So after taxes in Houston, I wrote down all the numbers. Hang on. I think I still have them. No, I got rid of them. Okay. After taxes, it came to something like you'll have $24,617, I think it is, on $30,000, because that's $15 an hour. So yeah, it was 82.7% tax. That's 82.7% is what you'd have left. So $24,810 divided by 12, that's $2,067 a month. So a person making $30,000 a year would go home with $2,067.50 a month in Houston, Texas. And keep in mind, that's a tax benefit there because there's no state income tax. So your effective tax rate is 17.3%. We didn't count utility tax, gas tax, and property and school taxes, because those are built into your gas prices, your utility prices, and your rent. So I started looking up the numbers. Okay, so your average rent in Houston. Keep in mind, the median income in Houston is $14.68. So 50% of the entire population of Houston doesn't even make $15 an hour. The median's 29,000 something. Comes out to $14.68. So at $15 an hour, you're already making more money than 50% of the population of Houston. But that's a living wage. He tries to move the goalposts by saying survival. No, 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 no. That's not what a living wage is, buddy. Okay. We're not talking about survival slave wages. We're talking about a living wage. Okay. By the way, minimum wage in New Mexico, or not New Mexico, in Texas, $7.25. 3%. 70,000 people in Houston make $7.25 an hour or less. And keep in mind, if you make $7.30 an hour, you're not counted in that 3% because you make more than minimum wage. 20% of the households in Houston, not the individuals, the households in Houston make $20,000 a year or less. That's not individuals, that's households. So that's 2.52 people. Well, what is that? 2,300,000. 2310000. 2,310,000 people in Houston, times 0.2. So 462,000. No, 20%. I'm sorry, hang on. I can't. I don't know how many households there are in Houston. So we can't do that math. But anyway, somewhere around 400,000 or 300,000 people in Houston make less than 10 grand a year. Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts because family counts as less. It's weird. It's whatever. The numbers get weird when you try to devolve them because they don't make these numbers publicly available. Because if people could actually look this stuff up, it'd be mayhem. But anyway, so you got $2,067 a month. Average rent in Houston on the low side is $1,250. You got $817 left. This is after taxes. $2,067 after taxes. Because you have like $2,400 before taxes or something like that. The average health insurance in Houston, Texas, $510. Average food bill, $270. Average utility bill, $181. Average fuel bill. The average miles driven in Houston is actually higher. It's over 16,000 miles. Gas is $2.68 a gallon. Average fuel economy is 24.8 miles per gallon. So your average fuel bill is $147. Your car maintenance bill is $100. We're assuming you have a car to fully paid off to use. Your phone bill, let's call it 6 minus 5. Why did you do that? Your now we're assuming you don't have any internet service and you don't have any television service, so we're talking about survival wage here. Just a $25 a month smartphone, so you get all your communications, your internet, and your entertainment just on that $25 a month phone plan. I have that. This is Hello Mobile, $25 a month unlimited, so that is possible. The service isn't that great, but hey, when you're poor, you take what you can get. So we are already busting our budget by $466. And did I miss anything else? I don't think so. The big stuff. I think I got all the big stuff. And keep in mind that this does not include your regular life expenses: toiletries, toothpaste, soap, clothing, your basic day-to-day needs. It doesn't include any of that. Just your primary bills, for bare survival. You've already busted $15 an hour by $466 a month. You're short. Okay, so you do what everybody does. You say fuck the $100 car budget, and you say fuck the $510 health insurance. Seriously, cat? Seriously? You gonna knock stuff over, huh? Where's something I can throw at him? I'm throwing something at you, cat. Yeah, nice lightweight container. They get into everything. um, so if we get rid of the health insurance, minus 510, and we get rid of the car budget, we lower that to $20 a month just to cover oil changes, fluids, wipers, washer fluid, a used tire, assuming you can find some used tires. You can probably find plenty of used tires in Houston. So that's another 80. So that's now you're positive $124. That should be enough to cover your basic toiletry expenses and clothing and stuff like that. And keep in mind, we're assuming you start off with a paid for car. Somehow, we don't know how, but somehow you got a paid for car because you're not existing in Houston really without a car. It's possible, but it's harder. It's going to cost you about the same as a car. Oh, I forgot to add car insurance. $176. You're still $52 in the hole. So even if you say screw health insurance and screw $80 worth of maintenance on your car, and you say your car doesn't cost $100 a month. Yeah. Well, the first time you have to replace a transmission at $4,000, you know how long that takes at $100 a month? 40 months. So $100 a month is actually not enough. But we're being ultra generous. Let's say you get lucky and you never burn up a tranny or an engine. Okay, let's say you get lucky. So I forgot that car insurance. $52 negative. Even after getting rid of health insurance and getting rid of most of your car maintenance budget, which will bite you in the ass later, you're still $52 in the hole. At $15 an hour, which is more than half the entire city makes. But Chris, how do they do it? How do people survive if 50% of the city doesn't make that much? By using cheat codes. They rent a room instead of an apartment. They go without health care. They buy less lower quality, less healthy food. Okay? They go without car insurance and just pray they never get into an accident or get pulled over. That's very high here in New Mexico. A lot of people go without car insurance and they gamble, they roll the dice. They don't have a choice. They don't make enough money. And you can't live here without a car. Do you know how many people are screwed by this Walmart that just burned? About half the employees walk to work. Oh, they can go work at the Walmart in Albuquerque. Well, first of all, Walmart runs their places at a minimum level. And so there might not be room at those places for those employees. And second of all, it's 30 miles to the nearest Walmart. How are they going to get there? And before you say walk, it's an 1,800-foot elevation change on a highway, major highway, 75-mile-an-hour speed limit. Good luck with that. Well, you could take 66 all the way down, but it's a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. It's just as dangerous. Yeah, good luck with that. It's not like Levittown where the next Walmart is 3 miles that way. Now, I did hear that Walmart will be keeping some employees on to help with the cleanup, and they're also going to be paying hazard pay for some of the displaced employees. So I don't know what that means or how extensive that is, but it sounds like they might be trying to not fuck over their employees too badly, which is an odd thing coming from a Walmart. I guess it's hard to get employees, so they got to be nicer, huh? There's no place in the country where you can survive on $4.36 an hour, because that's what $15 an hour is. $15 an hour. Let me double check it, because this does change quite frequently. So if we take $15 an hour and adjust it back to 1980, it's a little higher, $4.47. So $15 an hour is actually $4.47, which is still less than starting pay at McDonald's in 1980. What people are asking for a minimum wage, which is not a living wage anywhere in the country, mind you, okay? But what it does do is it allows those cheat codes to start helping you instead of helping your employer. See, in the past, why would you get a roommate with an apartment? Well, because you want to save up for a house. So you got to save money, but rent costs more than buying a house. So you would save rent by subletting a roommate, which is hard to do nowadays because they just raise your rent if you have more people. But you'd share a room with somebody or rent a bedroom or something like that, or stay at home with your parents and not pay any rent at all in order to permit you to save up to put a down payment on a house. Because back in 1980, a median house price was $47,000. So finding a house for $20,000 or $30,000 was totally possible. Today, median price is $295,000, which is about $90,000 in 1980 dollars. So it's almost doubled. Um, so even today, $15 an hour minimum wage is still less than starting wage at McDonald's in 1980. It's still less than McDonald's was paying in 1980 because they were paying $5 an hour. Well, $4.80 to $5 an hour. I think the lowest they were paying was like $4.40 in Puerto Rico, and the highest was like $5.40 in Honolulu. So your typical McDonald's wage at the time was like $4.80 to $5 an hour for your entry level. That's your starting wage. You go to McDonald's, you want to get hired, you're 20 years old. Okay, so $15 an hour is $4.47 in 1980, which is still less than they were paying as an entry level in 1980. You can't make this shit up. You can't make it up. In fact, when they say fact is stranger than fiction, they're not kidding. You tell this to most people and they go, bullshit. Until they plug in the numbers and they realize, oh my fucking God, it's not bullshit. $15 an hour today is less than McDonald's was paying an entry-level employee in 1980. $16.78 would be if McDonald's matched inflation, which they have with the price of their products. So they're collecting the money to pay everybody $16.78 an hour minimum and to make still more profit than they made in 1980. If McDonald's paid $16.78 an hour and we had universal health care, that would actually be a living wage. Yeah. Well, I mean, $16.78, what is that? So let's adjust McDonald's entry income for inflation to today. That's $16.78. Well, times 2,000 hours, which is your full-time work year, is $33,560. That's median per capita income today. Our median per capita income today is $33,700. So we've taken what used to be starting wage at McDonald's. We've taken an amount that used to be starting wage at McDonald's, and we've made it the amount that 50% of the entire country makes as a maximum. Because right now, median per capita, that's per person, income is $33,700. McDonald's was paying $33,560 for the person at the drive-through window or the cash register on their first day of work. That's what they were paying in 1980. That's what inflation does. So McDonald's could pay a starting wage of $16.78 and it would cost them nothing because they've already raised their prices more than 100% of inflation. And all of their costs have gone down as they've automated, as they've built out more infrastructure. Their actual individual costs are actually lower. So not only have they lowered their costs and not only have they exceeded the rate of inflation for their prices, but they've suppressed their wages to less than they were in 1980. 20% less than they were in 1980. Because today it's a little higher because of the pandemic, but just before the pandemic, they were paying $2.98 an hour. That's what $10 is adjusted back to 1980. $2.98. That's insane. I didn't even know this until I made this video. I figured this out as I was making this video. It's mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing. USinflationcalculator.com. It's a fascinating site to start typing numbers into. Most people don't realize you can flip the numbers. You can make 2021 the first number and 1980 the second number, and you can inflate backwards. That's how I figured out what the median price of a house is now. Median price of a house today is $295,000, which in 1980 is $87,884. But in 1980, the median price of a house was actually $47,000. Now, granted, houses are a little bit nicer today, but they're not that different from the 1980s. I mean, I had a pretty nice house in Pennsylvania. It was built in 1980. Okay? Same house. They actually, a lot of it's built cheaper today to try to keep the costs down. Insanity. Absolute insanity. So if McDonald's paid the exact same starting wage today as they paid in 1980, if they didn't give you even a 1 penny increase, keep in mind, increase means beyond inflation. Okay? So if we took $5 an hour and adjusted it for inflation, meaning it's the exact same number, the same value, it's $1,678. That's $33,560 times 0.827. Oh, I'm not on that window. Times 0.827. That is $27,754 after taxes. Okay, so divide by 12. That's $2,312.84. Now remember, like I said, let's say we had universal health care, which would actually lower our taxes, not increase them. We pay more per capita for health care than any other country on the planet except Finland. So if we were to actually enact typical universal health care, like most European countries have, our taxes would actually go down, not up. Okay, so think about that for a moment. But let's keep it the same. Let's keep the taxes the same. So you got the same $1,250 for an apartment, same $176 for car, same $147 for gas, same $100 for car maintenance, same $181 for utilities, same $270 for food, same $25 for phone. What else am I missing? Did I get everything? I got utilities, I got car insurance, I got car maintenance. Let's call it $50 a year for registration and inspection. I don't know what it is in Texas. I'm just going to guess $50 for now. Keep in mind, we were not factoring that in before. And let's call it, actually, that's $50 a month. That's way too high. Plus 40. Call it $10 a month, $120 a year. Because that's about what it was in Pennsylvania. It was about $40, 42 for registration, and about 80 for inspection. So it's about 120. What else do we have to include in that? Now, keep in mind that's full maintenance on the car. Well, not full, but $100 a month you're putting away just in case something breaks. Plus your normal, tires, wipers, fluids, oil changes, etc. Let's say you get a basic internet plan at the house. Okay, $50 for your internet at the house, and wait, let's add $50 for cable, and then let's add $50 for going out once a month. And you still got $4 left. So, if McDonald's paid exactly the same inflation adjusted wage that they paid starting employees in 1980, that would be a living wage if we had universal health care. If we had universal health care on top of that. It's not even close without universal health care. So if minimum wage was $16.78, which would be $5 an hour, 1980 adjusted for inflation, most welfare services would no longer need to exist. Because, now the minimum would be survivable in a huge portion of the country. Trust me, there's more expenses to life than that. It's harder than you think, but it would be doable. At least at that point, cheat codes would begin to benefit you instead of benefiting your employer. See, right now the cheat codes allow your employer to pay you a sub living wage, and even that's breaking down. So if we paid what McDonald's paid starting employees in 1980 and kept it exactly the same, and we made that the minimum across the board, starting wage at McDonald's in 1980, exactly adjusted for inflation. I don't know about you, but I don't call that a lot of money. That's not a lot of money. Now, if a person if they could find a like an $800 apartment, they can afford to buy a new car, or they can start putting away money for a house if house prices had stayed reasonable. That's a whole nother video. There's no reason we can't build $20,000 houses today. We choose not to for tax reasons. It's more profitable to tax a $300,000 house than it is to tax a $20,000 house. So we've basically made $20,000 houses illegal. Um, but yeah, I mean, but this guy will spread this same bullshit the next time he talks to somebody. He will. What I said does not fit within his rigid personal bias of his worldview, and he will not let go of his rigid personal bias of his worldview, his cognitive dissonance. He will not let that go. And so, even after I just debunked every single word he spoke, he'll go to the next person and say the exact same thing. I don't know what to do about that. Start eating people? Us lizards know you people taste good. Yeah. Just remember, you all taste like chicken.